Hi, peeps. You're listening to She's My Cherry Pie, the baking podcast from the Cherry Bombe Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jessie Sheehan. I'm a baker, recipe developer, and author of 4 baking books, including Snackable Bakes. In each episode, I hang out with some of the sweetest bakers around and take a deep dive into their signature bakes. My guest today is Mariela Camacho. Mariela is a baker and the founder of Comadre Panadería, a Mexican-American bakery in Austin, Texas, known for its beautiful pan dulce using traditional techniques as well as local ingredients and heirloom Texas grains. Comadre started as a pop-up, first in Seattle, then Austin, and Mariela opened her brick-and-mortar in 2023. Since then, she's been a 2-time semifinalist for the James Beard Award for Outstanding Pastry Chef, and she was named one of Food & Wine's Best New Chefs in 2025. Mariela joins me to talk about how she got her start in baking, what inspired her to launch her business, and the meaning behind the name Comadre, and her mission to spotlight pan dulce and other Mexican baked goods while nourishing her community, providing her team a livable wage, and empowering ethical and organic foodways. Then we dive into one of Mexico's most iconic treats, the concha. It's an enriched sweetbread with a crumbly cookie shell on top, which is fitting since concha means shell in Spanish. Mariela also walks me through the different flavors she serves at Comadre, including matcha and golden milk. She tells me about the first time she ever tasted Mexican concha when she was 7 and how different it tasted from the one she'd eaten back home in California and Texas, and why concha is such a beloved pastry and not a trend. You're going to love my chat with Mariela, so stay tuned. Are you looking for a little more Cherry Bombe in your life? Our annual magazine subscription is the perfect way to stay inspired all year long. You'll receive our beautiful new issues delivered right to your door with free shipping. Each issue is filled with thoughtful interviews, beautiful full-color photos, delicious recipes from the season's best cookbooks, and stories celebrating the women and creatives in the food and drink space. Subscriptions are $100 a year, and you can also gift one to the food lover in your life. Head to cherrybombe.com or click the link in our show notes to subscribe today. Let's chat with today's guest. Mariela, so excited to have you on She's My Cherry Pie and to chat concha with you and so much more.
Thank you for having me.
So you are the oldest daughter of Mexican immigrants, originally from LA, but you grew up in San Antonio, Texas, and I know you have always loved sweets. Can you share like your earliest actual baking memory? I mean, I know your mom was an excellent cook. I don't know if you were ever baking with her or on your own, but can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, there's no one in my family that baked. Like no cookies, no frozen cookie dough, nothing. But because bread culture is so big to like Mexicans and Mexican immigrants, we were always eating bread. Like, yes, we had corn tortillas, but also like growing up in Texas, flour tortillas kind of rule. Mm-hmm. So I just loved bread-like things. And my mom and my dad both have a pretty big sweet tooth. To this day, they still have a drawer of chocolate. And now I have a drawer of chocolate. Like, we just love sweets. Like, there's always bread on the table from a panaderia or H-E-B, which is like our big grocery store. There was always cajeta, the like goat's milk caramel in the fridge, cold, like with a spoon. There was always milk fudge candies. Always, always, always. But I didn't bake something until I got a bakery job when I was like 20.
So good.
Yeah.
So what about a really early baked good eating memory? Now, there's this amazing one when you were 7 and you had your concha for the first time in Mexico and you were like, this tastes so different than what I'm used to.
And yes, absolutely.
And I want to hear that story, but is there any other thing that you remember?
It was honestly always these milk fudge candies. I mean, it's like such an old craft with big copper pots, very controlled, but a lot of intuition goes into it and just experience and decades of practice. And it's just milk and sugar, sometimes coconut, but it's just like these beautiful slabs, these like rectangular slabs, perfectly cut. the texture of it. It's like crystallized. You know, a lot of times crystallization gets like a bad rep, but I love the texture. I love grittiness isn't the best word for it, but it was those candies.
So it's not like soft, like we shouldn't picture like a caramel.
It is not like caramel.
Yeah.
It's like crystallized and it's super sweet. Very, very sweet. But at that age, I was 100% okay with that. Board. Yeah, it's just like, it's fudgy, it's texture, it's milky. That brings me back. Yeah.
Now tell us the story about when you were 7 and you went to Mexico with your family and ate your concha.
Back in the day, it was a lot easier to go see our family, right? We had so much more access to our culture and our roots and just being connected to the land. And I always remember, like, there was always a molino, so you could always go get fresh masa. Like, my grandma would nixtamalize her corn, and then you go take it to the molino, and we had
Tell
masa.
us what a molino is, just for people who don't know.
A molino is a big old stone grinder. You dump your nixtamalized corn in there, and it grinds it up. So kind of like a flour mill in a way, but it grinds up your corn into masa so that you can make really cool, delicious, nutritious stuff with it. Yeah, I mean, it was just so normal to have fresh bread, and conchas are just a part of me. Like, it's just like they are everywhere. And it's so hard to not have a connection to being Mexican-American and not really appreciate a concha. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And I love that you've written that, you know, even at 7, your palate was such that you understood that, like, this concha does not taste like what I eat back in California or in Texas.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really interesting because my family had access to land. So they were used to growing food. They were used to making food to survive. And then, you know, my parents move up to California and then Texas, and it's just a huge disconnect. They didn't have control of their food anymore. And because they both worked so much, they didn't have access to like healthy food. So we ate a lot of fast food. We picked up a lot of cheap, affordable things for survival, you know? And a lot of those things have tons of preservatives. Sugar is a wonderful preservative. And it was really, really sweet. Yeah. Very sweet.
You kind of come from a food industry family. Like everybody in your family, you have said, has worked in restaurants. But your mom was also this amazing cook. I wrote cooking genius, which I think you probably said.
Yes.
Maybe I said it, but I think you said it. So I want to hear about her. And then there was also this story that I read about your mom making these incredible refried beans. I can't remember. And then your dad coming in to kind of smash the beans up. So I wondered, did he also play a role in the food you guys ate at home? Yeah. When you guys were cooking?
Yeah. So my mom was the day-to-day cook. She kept the fridge stocked with salsa, beans, rice, everything, right? The daily stuff. And then my dad, we didn't really see very often because he worked all the time. My dad was the cook for Sunday morning pancakes. If he ever got a day off, Sunday morning pancakes. And then he would cook the meat for like asadas. So if we had a family gathering, and we have a pretty big family on both sides, my mom and my dad, he would cook the meat. As a vegetarian, I did not retain any of that skill set. But he would do the classic carne asada, like pour beer over it while it like grills, citrus all over it. And I think that's what makes food so special is food becomes an extension of your lived experience, right? That's what makes food special. It's a culmination of you, right? And my mom made her food her. And I think that's what made it taste good. And yeah, everyone's mom's food is awesome, right? Because we have a connection to it. But she really was quite creative and stretched out food for a long time and understood that like there was no waste. So there was always a way to reinvent something that she made, you know, or she like subbed in ingredients a lot and worked with what she had. She's such a good cook.
I really want to go visit her.
Yeah, she's such a hostess. She loves attention. She loves she will not sit down when she's hosting and she won't eat either, but she'll look at you and be like, what do you think?
Yeah.
How is it? What do you think? She loves doing that.
Can you tell us a little bit about the restaurants they worked in?
I mean, it was all like fast food, like immigrant, just dishwashing, line cooking, lots of food prep. Like I remember, my mom coming home and her hands were like cramping up because she had just scooped cases upon cases of avocados for guacamole.
Yeah.
It was always just like the manual and really the heart of restaurants. That's what my parents did. The really, 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 really important things in a restaurant, like dishwashing and prep.
The things that people don't realize the restaurant cannot survive without those people.
Exactly.
Because of that, the restaurant work and the work that they were doing and then that you started to do instilled this serious work ethic in you.
Yes.
And you understood from your family, like, to make it in life, you need to work.
Yes.
Like, that's how it breaks down. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back. If you love our show, did you know that we publish a free baking newsletter every Saturday to correspond with each new episode? Check out Cherry Bomb's Substack to subscribe to our She's My Cherry Pie newsletter today, where you'll get exclusive insights about my guests on the show, their recipes, and other fun baking news and tips. Plus, check out our other free newsletters where you'll find the latest food and fashion news and browse through our recipe catalog, which is filled with some really great recipes. While you're there, consider becoming a paid Substack subscriber to get access to exclusive content from Cherry Bomb Magazine, invites to our monthly Bomb Squad meetings with industry pros, and discounts to events like our annual Jubilee Conference. A subscription is just $6 per month or $55 a year. Learn more at cherrybomb.substack.com or click the link in our show notes. Now back to our guest. Because you've been addicted to sugar from as young as you can remember, at 15 when you started working in restaurants, you automatically gravitated towards the baked goods, as it were, the desserts. Should I picture you in like a big restaurant and wanting to be at the pastry station? Tell us a little bit about finding your way into sweets in your sort of restaurant work.
Yeah, I mean, growing up in San Antonio, I didn't really have access to I've never worked at a Michelin star restaurant. I've never really been wanting to go learn my craft that way. I was just working in kind of big chain restaurants. I started off as a hostess and learned a lot about service and waitressing. I would go to school, get off of school, and go be a waitress till 10 p.m. and then go to school the next day. And then during the summer, I would line cook and cook really simple stuff. I did really love the independence of just getting out there and working, But I didn't get to be in a bakery till I was 20. And even then, I still had to be a server, make sandwiches before I was let into the bakery. It wasn't easy to find someone that would teach me because I didn't go to school. School brought me a lot of anxiety. So that wasn't really a path.
Did you go into that bakery job at 20 knowing that you wanted to get back into the kitchen and just sort of I chose this place, I want to work here, I'll do whatever you guys want and hopefully make your way back?
Absolutely. I was if you teach me, I'll learn. I can do this.
Yeah. So you've also said that you grew up angry, which tracks so much with your love of punk rock and hardcore. Totally get that.
Yeah, you get it.
I get it. And poor. And that 100%, I think both of those things influence how ethically you run your business today, but also how you reacted and experienced restaurant work.
Yeah.
For instance, I think there was a pastry job in Austin, working the line, preparing plated desserts. I don't think you loved that culture power dynamic. Yeah. I think we all sort of know what that was probably like, but tell us a little bit about that and how that impacted you as then a business owner or even the path that you took.
I mean, seeing people you love and care for not having access to a healthy life, to being treated with respect. I think anyone that's worked in restaurants has experienced this really, really terrible dynamic of not just the hierarchy, but the classism that happens in restaurants. Yeah. And I was just so tired of seeing my parents and my family members working, not being respected, not giving opportunities to move up in a restaurant, even though they were very good at what they did. It took me a long time to understand my own self-worth and how really the workers are the most essential part of a restaurant, right? It took me a while to really have that click in my head. But, I was, angry and poor. And because I experienced, so many people, especially women identifying people, so much sexism and grossness in a kitchen. The things that you experience in a kitchen can be really, really traumatizing. But because I experienced all these things and there wasn't very much opportunity for me, it was quite easy to build my business to be the opposite.
And also to know that that was your goal, to have your own place. I read, that became important to you because you're like, I have to do something different.
I didn't want to perpetuate my experience. Yeah.
I also loved this line of this feeling of yours that I read about, like that you were happy you didn't go to pastry school because instead you got to speak Spanish in restaurants instead.
Yes.
Unpack that a little bit for us.
Yeah, I felt so comfortable in a restaurant sometimes. I felt cared for. I remember some of the prep cooks they knew I'm addicted to sugar. They would come in and bring me Twix bars sometimes, or they'd bring me a taco. And my family was still in San Antonio while I was in Austin. I just felt like I had people looking out for me, and navigating the kitchen, knowing Spanish put me on the up and up in some ways because I could communicate with the primary, the workforce, essentially. I had a connection to something that was making these restaurants operate. School is cool. Again, school is cool. It works really well for some people, and for some people, it does not. And I feel like my path of just being in kitchens and really experiencing other people in kitchens was the right one for me.
Now let's talk about Comadre Panadería.
Panadería, yes.
It's your Mexican-American bakery in East Austin. I love that you describe it as a punk rock bakery run by a Mexican-American immigrant, which it is. The story of the name of the bakery is so good. Can you tell us about what a comadre is?
Yes. So I grew up very much in a culture of gossiping, but gossiping for survival and for safety and as a way of connecting, right? So my mom would call my tías on the phone and she'd be like, comadre, no te vas a creer lo que oí. You call someone comadre that you trust and that you connect with and that you have a relationship with, right? Of safety. I wanted to be that for people. I want people to come into the bakery and feel that safety and feel that warmth and that energy and just know that you're being taken care of and you are connecting with us through participating in what we're doing.
Yeah.
It just clicked one day, and it's just a word that you hear all the time, and I was like, I want to be that to people. So yeah, just
it's funny because I know that story from learning about you. Sometimes you have to see a word and say it out loud. I just realized the word madre is in comadre.
Yes,
I love that. I think that's such a great, really unique name.
Yeah.
I love the way the pastry case is described in the bakery as an ode to the pan dulce of your childhood, reimagined and modernized. Break that down tell us about pan dulce.
Yes, that's such a elegant way of saying what I do, because lately I've just been what I do is just kind of a mess. It's just kind of this weird mess. And the older I get, the weirder I get, and the more experimental I want to be and challenge myself. But that's what makes food so beautiful and so special. It's a culmination of your lived experience. And the food changes as I change. And I love making food that you look at the item and you identify it, but then you taste it and you're like, oh, that's not what I expected. And I like for people to experience that because I think it opens up people's minds a little bit. And also, I'm a different generation. I am different. We are all different, and that's what makes things beautiful. So my food is just pan dulce, which is just like sweetbread. I want to make a bit more nutritious, but I want to make fun. That's my version of pan dulce.
I loved learning that when you're making food, you want it to be nostalgic. You want it to make people feel warm and fuzzy. But to your point, you want to do it with really nutritious ingredients that are good for you and good for the planet.
Yes.
And I'm assuming that was just sort of always your vision for the bakery. You always knew. It's not like you got there and you're like, oh, I think I care about sourcing ingredients.
Yeah.
You always knew.
Deeply embedded as being a punk and hardcore kid and growing up with immigrants, right? You're expected to work and work and work, but if you don't have access to nutritious food, then you just get tired and you're too tired to be a part of your family or your community or to go out and protest, right? yes, this bakery is like extension of me or whatever, but I'm really starting to understand that we are setting an example. If we can prove to people that we're doing it, we're doing it. This tiny, independent, completely self-funded DIY bakery is paying their bills. I'm paying myself. I'm paying my staff really well. We have 4 weeks of PTO. We have a health and wellness stipend. We use really nice ingredients. We give back to our community. If we can do it,
I know, it's incredible.
Y'all can do this.
Yep, I feel you. I feel it. All right, now we're going to talk about your recipe for concha. At the bakery, it's described as airy with this crackly shell full of these bright flavors. Can you tell us, for those that don't know, what concha is?
Yeah. So concha means shell in Spanish, and that's typically what the pattern is on top, is that shell pattern. And I've seen it without, I've seen it like a spiral, so many beautiful different patterns. It's a great way to get creative with it. Love it. And the bread itself, I've had it all different ways. So many beautiful different types of conchas out there because everyone likes different things. But yes, it's bread, typically an enriched bread with eggs and butter. And then the topping is essentially, I think it's closer to like a cookie. It's like a cookie crackling, you know? Yeah. It crisps up in the oven and creates just that really fun texture. That's a concha.
So you developed your first concha recipe when your bakery was in its pop-up phase. And you kind of took a traditional recipe and sort of tweaked it in these very specific ways that sort of, it was all about what ingredients are you going to put into this concha.
Yes.
Probably to make it taste more like it did when you were 7 and you visited Mexico than maybe what you had grown up with here. But tell us about the tweaks in terms of like the flour, the sugar, the flavoring of the
concha shell.
The flavoring of the shell.
Yes. I love whole grains. I love how good they taste. And I also really love the bite of a brioche. I love that texture. You bite into it and it kind of caves and it kind of melts in your mouth. If you're using a high protein flour, there's that like bounce, that bite. And I really love and enjoy that. So much of what I like enjoy is like the texture of stuff. So I wanted to make it closer to a brioche. So I started off with that. And in Texas a lot, they tend to use canela or like star anise in the dough. So you're like pretty often picking up on the like cinnamon and anisey flavor, which I love. I love anise. Love it. But I wanted to just straight up taste the flour, the butter, and the eggs. I wanted it to be just like an expression of these ingredients. At the bakery, it's actually the only item that is not sourdough, like the only bread item that is not sourdough, because I love sourdough, but I just wanted this concha to taste as like simple and beautiful as possible. So I just try and keep it like really clean. And then for the shell, that's kind of where whatever mood I'm in, it translates through that. I, of course, had to start off with a vanilla shell. Heavy on the vanilla, like so much vanilla. And then there's always a pink concha in Panadería, so I didn't want it to be just pink. I use strawberry and raspberry freeze-dried powder. Sometimes I'll do like hibiscus powder in it as well if I'm feeling a little extra tangy. And as a chocolate-obsessed person, I also make a chocolate concha with chocolate chunks in the dough because I'm a chocolate freak.
I love that. Those are the two flavors, right? Either chocolate chunks or Mexican vanilla. Those are the two bread flavors.
Oh, the classics, yes.
So good, so good, so good. I thought this was really interesting. I actually learned this watching you and Claire Saffitz make concha for her dessert person YouTube show. I loved this. That depending on how you're flavoring the shell, because you'll do brown butter, freeze-dried berries, citrus, golden milk, cocoa, lavender, it can kind of affect how the cookie melts on top of the concha, which I thought was super interesting. Anyway, I also wanted to say, listeners, you have to watch Claire and Mariela make concha. It
was so sweet. I can't believe Claire was in my bakery.
I know, it was incredible.
It was really cool, really nerdy. It was awesome.
Okay, so the first things first, we're going to make the brioche dough. So in the bowl of a stand mixer, we're going to place some cold water, some organic cane sugar. Is there a brand?
Yeah, we have Wholesome in Texas. It's like processed in like Sugarland, Texas, actually.
Nice.
So yeah, we use Wholesome sugar.
Organic cane sugar, instant yeast, cold eggs, All of that goes in the bowl.
Yeah.
So tell us why we need cold water and cold eggs.
We are going to mix this dough for a while. Also, I live in Texas, where it's hot. When I'm making a dough that I'm going to have to work for a while, you got to start off with cold ingredients.
And also tell us why, I learned this from you and Claire, why it's important to start with the liquid and then add the dry on top.
I don't like my dry sticking to the bottom of the bowl. Sometimes as you're working with bigger batches, you got to get your hand underneath the dough and make sure that you're scraping it really well. So just starting off with the water helps the process be a little bit less messy.
Now we're going to add some Sonora flour or soft white wheat flour. Tell us about Sonora flour.
It's a beautiful, soft wheat. It tastes almost cinnamony sometimes. It just tastes really good. And I grew up having it in flour tortillas. So it's great for cakes. It's great for some cookies. And I love that it kind of brings down the protein percentage a little bit in the flour blend that we like to use.
It's not cake flour.
It's not quite down to cake flour.
But it's between AP and cake.
Yeah, it's definitely lower than AP.
And Sonora is on the Mexican-Arizona border?
Yeah, so it is just like a type of flour that gets used a lot in that area.
Love. You're saying if you can't find Sonora, you can use soft white wheat. Is that just AP?
Yes. Or typically, I would say just combine pastry flour and AP flour. So just kind of find that mid. And craft flour or more kind of for smaller mills, you know what I mean? It's pretty accessible in a lot of grocery stores these days. You can really experiment with a lot of cool flours out there.
So we're going to add the Sonora and we're going to add some bread flour. Where are you getting your bread flour from?
Our bread flour is Central Milling. We use their organic, high-protein bread flour. Again, I really like that too. I love it so much. And we're getting our Sonora flour from Barton Springs Mill, which is our local Texas mill.
So we'll add the Sonora flour, we'll add some bread flour, we'll add some sea salt. Do you ever use kosher or you only use
I only use sea salt. Yep. And we actually have access to this really beautiful Mexican rock salt that's less salty and minerally. It's really beautiful.
So we're going to put all of those dry ingredients on top of the wet ingredients. We'll mix on low for 5 minutes. What are we looking for after 5 minutes? What will have happened to this dough?
We're just looking for it to become a shaggy dough. Absolutely no dry bits. We're just looking to start getting the dough hydrated.
Then we're going to rest the dough for 10 minutes uncovered. And while it's resting, we're going to grab some cold butter. Is it unsalted?
It's unsalted.
We're going to grab some cold butter, slice it into thin slices, place the butter back in the fridge just so it stays extra cold. Then after the dough has rested, we'll begin mixing the dough, adding the butter constantly so there are always some visible chunks of butter. So in general with brioche, I'm trying to keep mixing until the butter disappears. So talk to me about visible chunks.
Because I slice the butter so thinly, and a part of that is to be able to control the temperature a little bit, I'll stick the butter in the freezer if it is warm in the kitchen. If you wait too long to add the butter, the dough develops and then doesn't quite accept the butter. That's why I cut it into really, really thin slices, and I'm just constantly adding it. I feel like when I first started making this dough, I would throw in a bunch of butter, kind of walk away, come back, throw in a bunch of butter, walk away. But now we just add it constantly at a pace. And you can see how quickly it's accepting the butter. And again, so much of baking is intuition, practice, feeling, right? So sometimes I have to wait for the butter to kind of mix in a little bit more. Sometimes not. It also depends on what your flour is doing that
and
day.
what the weather is.
What the weather is.
Totally.
But I like that pace of always being able to see a bit of butter in it, as long as it's really nice, thin slices.
I mean, I know it depends on how big a batch you're doing, but about how long does that process take?
It takes a solid 15 minutes or so.
I'm just thinking, even when you make a loaf of brioche, it
takes a while.
Long time, if you do it right.
Yeah.
And you say you might need a little extra water. You have to listen to the dough. The water would be because if the dough isn't accepting the butter, it may be a little too dry.
Yeah, especially if we just got in a bag of flour. Freshly ground flour is going to soak up more water. So you always have to account for things like that. But if it's humid, it's not going to want to take as much water, right? But if you don't hydrate the dough enough, especially because we're using whole grain flour in it, you won't get that growth in the oven. And You know, the window says it all with this brioche dough. There's a window and then there's a window. I want a big freaking window on this sucker. And that's why I love the high protein bread flour. It's going to mix and mix and mix. People are scared to overmix a dough. 100% understand. But this concha dough needs to get very, very strong.
Remind us what the window pane is.
Yes, the window pane.
Or the window pane test.
Yes, grabbing a chunk of dough, and we're looking to see how strong your gluten is, how much you've beat it up. Kind of grabbing like a golf ball size chunk of dough. You start stretching it while rotating it kind of gently. I actually tend to be a little bit aggressive with it because I really want to see how strong it is. And you just stretch it as far as you can before it wants to rip on you. And you want it to be nice and translucent and be able to see through it.
Yeah. And what's the big part of it? You don't want it to be a little tiny piece that you just pulled apart a couple of inches. You really want to see the strength of moving your hands apart from each other and still seeing.
It's one of the quicker doughs that we make. I need it to be strong to really, really hold on to the fermentation in it so that I can get it as big as possible, really. I want that big, airy, but strong chew, So you got to make sure your dough is strong.
So now we're going to let the dough sit 73 to 77 degrees on the counter, 2 to 4 hours. And it is going to go in the fridge after this. So why the counter rest, and what are we looking for after the counter rest?
Because we've got the instant yeast in it. I like to use the gold instant yeast. It's got a
Is that like SAF?
Yeah, the gold SAF instant yeast, which just does better with highly enriched doughs.
I have to say I just started using that. I had always used the one that had the red on the container rather than the gold.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah, and it does kind of speed up the process as well. So you really have to keep an eye on your dough and be careful with the temperature. But we let it sit out at room temp for a couple of hours. It's going to change, okay? You always have to be ready to just do whatever the dough wants you to do. So yeah, we're just waiting for it to grow and ferment. Definitely the double in size situation. And then we punch it down. And I always tell the bakers, hey, sometimes to make things strong, you got to kind of punch it down a little bit. They look at me like, okay, weirdo. Yeah, you got to get that gas out of there.
Yeah, no, I read that. I thought that was so interesting. I've never thought of or articulated the idea of degassing with making something stronger.
Yeah, because then it's going to go again.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we punch it down and then stick it in the fridge overnight.
Yeah. It seems like a really long proof time. I don't bake a ton of brioche, but longer than most brioche, yes?
Yeah, and also it's got so much butter in it. You do not want to work with this dough at room temp.
Yep.
You do not.
Yep. But that probably makes it so delicious.
It does. Time makes things taste good.
Yeah, and also the butter.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I guess there's that.
There was a moment where you and Claire are discussing this and you sort of mention, I think she says, I feel like people are always not, and she includes herself, proofing long enough. And you heartily agree with her.
We take it to the max. Yeah. I feel like I take everything to the max. I see how much I can manipulate its greatness. Sometimes it doesn't go as planned. Always just trying to see how far we can push things, and that's why I love developing the dough a bunch and pushing that proof.
Love. So now we're going to make the concha vanilla shell recipe. Again, it's similar to cracklin. Peeps we've talked about when working with choux pastry. Cracklin has made an appearance on the pod before. So we're going to combine some sifted 10X or confectioner sugar, powdered sugar, some all-purpose flour. So no Sonora here.
Nope.
Why?
You need a little more protein in this one.
Okay. Could you make a cookie with Sonora?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think of this cracklin, the concha shell, as cookie-like.
Yes.
So we're going to combine the powdered sugar, all-purpose flour, vanilla powder. Why powder rather than extract?
It's just such a great way to use up the whole vanilla pod. We want to use all of it, And one thing that, it's so fun to get creative with the shells. It really is. But you have to watch your ratios. You do not want to include too much liquid.
Yeah.
I've done that. It's not good.
Yeah, it's not pretty.
No.
Do you guys ever use extract in the bakery, or do you do powder?
We do, yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Also love extract. Yeah, so it's vanilla powder and extract in the bakery.
I got to lean into vanilla powder more.
I love it.
Yeah. Literally the dried bean ground up.
The entire
That's
bean.
the powder. So smart.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I probably have a dried bean at home.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That I like never scraped out. And I would think I needed to
And you
throw
can
it
always use those pods to, or like the whole bean to like infuse into something, right? Like it's so practical. Everyone loves doing that. But this way, I still don't have to throw away that bean once it's infused, you know?
Yeah. So we're combining the powdered sugar, the all-purpose flour, the vanilla powder, salt, and are we whisking at this stage?
You can just mix it all up.
With your hands? Well, at least this stage of it, we're using our hands.
Yes.
Then we're going to cut some room temp butter into the dry ingredients. I think I have both you and Claire talking about it and also the recipe that I read, so I kind of tried to mix them together. But you're kind of tossing the butter with your hands at first to kind of coat it in the flour.
Yes.
And then using your hands to bring the butter together with the dry ingredients.
Yes, and you can do this in the mixer as well, especially if you're working on like the cocoa shell, which tends to be a bit drier. That one's going to take a while.
That was the one Claire was doing.
I know. I did her dirty. Sorry, Claire. Yeah, that one for sure. So using a mixer is totally fine. One thing I do sometimes, like if the butter gets too soft on me, I will coat the butter in the dry, break it up a little bit, like if I was making pie dough, and then I'll stick it into the fridge and let it chill for 30 minutes and then mix it.
Yeah. It seems like the first half of this recipe might be your hands, and then the second half is the mixer. When you guys are in the bakery, do you do the whole thing in the mixer?
No, we
guys
cut
split
the
it.
fat.
You do. And just because you like the tactile and just having control with your hands.
Because if you just throw like a chunk of fat in there and start mixing it, sometimes the fat doesn't break down all the way. And then you've got chunks of fat, which like you do not want that. So this just kind of allows us to control the texture and the final mix a lot more.
So with our hands, we're sort of going to combine the butter into the dry ingredients. We'll place it in the fridge for like 30 minutes just so it's easier to work with when we put it into our mixer. And I kind of got like slight shortbread cookie vibes just because I think about shortbread having powdered sugar.
Yes.
Which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, and like there's no eggs. There's nothing. It's just,
well, that's also very I mean, people put eggs in shortbread, but that's why I was wondering.
Yeah.
After it's chilled, mix on low with the paddle until a cohesive dough forms that isn't sticky. We don't want to overmix.
No, it'll make it not fun.
Tough.
Oh, it's so not fun. We've had that happen before. It's like messy and sticky and like smears everywhere.
Yeah.
It's always good to slightly undermix and then you can kind of finish it off as you go.
Yep. Then we'll portion it into balls. You'll take each ball, and I saw this in the video, even though I didn't read it in the recipe. It looks like you have like squares of parchment. You put each ball between two squares of parchment. You grab your tortilla press, and you press them.
Yeah.
You said you can also do this by hand.
Totally.
But you guys use your tortilla press to get them really thin.
Yeah.
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 Was that your idea, or is that what everybody did?
I mean, it just like seemed more practical to me because that's how my mom makes her tamales. A lot of people just like smear it on there, but my mom uses the tortilla press to press the ball flat onto the like husks. And I was like, oh, well, that makes total sense. Like I know Gusto out in Long Beach, amazing conchas. I'm pretty sure they like sheet out their concha topping, which is like also so practical, right? There's so many different ways to do it. For me, just pressing them all and like having a big stack and then just slapping them on the concha is my favorite.
Yep, I love that. But you said you can also do it by hand.
Totally.
Which would be rolling by hand?
Rolling it, I actually like to smash it in my hands back and forth like a corn tortilla.
Yeah.
Because like as you're doing this motion back and forth, it presses a little ball down flat, and it also, you can kind of shape it and kind of like the throwing it back and forth kind of starts expanding the size.
Do we refrigerate at this stage, or they can be room temp when they're going to be slapped?
It depends when you're slapping them on there. What we do at the bakery is we'll shape the dough. So we make the dough. It hangs out in the fridge overnight, right? And then we shape it the second day. And then we then give it another fridge time. It hangs out in the fridge again overnight. And then on the third day, that's when we tray it all up. And then we take our cold shells. We let them temper a little bit. So you can always do it ahead of time. If not, that's totally fine. You just want the shell to be pliable. Because if you try and like stick it on cold,
when it's really cold, not going to happen.
Work.
That's so interesting that you give it a 2 overnight stays, the dough in the bakery. So wow, this is some tough. That's great to know.
Yes,
could somebody do that
process
with the recipe at home?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
so
then you can make it ahead.
Yeah, I mean, which is such a big part of having a bakery.
Yeah.
Everything has to be so scheduled out, right? But I mean, if I wasn't making it like this at the bakery, I would just shape the cold dough that morning, and then go straight into the proofer after you put your shells on it.
Yep. We've got our shells between the two pieces of parchment.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to shape the cold brioche into small little boules.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to egg wash them, and that will help the shell stick.
Yes.
What's your egg wash recipe?
We usually do 2 eggs, a yolk, and some oat milk.
Oat milk. So
Yes.
no salt.
No salt.
Okay, so we are going to egg wash our tiny little boules.
Mm-hmm.
We'll peel off one piece of the paper from our shell.
Yes.
And I love that that's the verb, but we're
Yeah.
slapping the shell
Yes.
right on top of the little boule and then peeling off the top piece. And then we're going to stamp with a cutter, which I learned from the video with Claire that you got on Etsy.
Yeah. And I really did not know how conchas were made until I, started my pop-up in 2017. I really did not know. I was like, what?
Yeah.
It's a cutter? It blew my mind. Yeah, and when I place the shell on there, I really like to press the cold dough down too. It's quite flat.
So it's like the boules come out of the fridge and they're probably rounded.
They've domed a little bit, yeah.
But by the time you put on that shell, you want them to be flat.
You do.
It just helps with the baking of the bread with the shell on top.
Yeah, and I love it to be a little bit more flat because it's a bit easier to eat as well. So it's not so much like a bun, right? Like a brioche bun will really go high up. So I like to press it down so that it's a little bit more, just like a bigger.
I get it.
Round. Mm-hmm.
So now we're going to proof covered for about 3 hours until jiggly, which is very important. Also, we want it to hold a poke, which I've never heard. And I love that way of expressing that, which basically means we stick our finger in it. When we pull out our finger, it should still be poked. And you love to push the proof to the max.
Yes.
You and Claire, as we've mentioned, discussed that. What happens if you don't proof to the max?
It's just it's just small. You know how you stamped that concha shell? It won't open up all the way. You'll just see the cuts into it, but you won't see the little spaces in between. You should be able to see the dough through your shell pattern.
Yep.
And it's just not as fun of a texture.
Yeah. We're going to let them double. About how long does that take?
It depends how hot your kitchen is, right? Yeah. Or if you're putting it in the oven with the oven light on. But we like to push it to 103 degrees, no higher than that. And it typically takes about 3 hours.
I heard you and Claire talking about this, but I wasn't exactly sure. In the bakery, do you put them in the oven to proof?
We have a proofer. Best thing I've ever done. Best thing.
Is that I don't know that much about what kind of equipment people have in their bakeries. Is that
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that sounds.
We were proofing them in our ovens.
Yeah.
It sucked.
Yeah.
So bad.
Yeah. How long does a proofer take?
It takes 3 hours.
So it's the same amount of time. It's just the right environment.
Yeah, it's just warm.
You
do want to go warm.
Yeah.
For sure. I recommend, warm. At room temp, the 75, it's going to take a while.
Okay, then we're going to bake at 350 degrees for 10 to 15 minutes. I love that you're a rotator. I always rotate everything.
Obsessed.
Yeah, not everybody rotates.
Yeah.
I've learned from interviewing people. A lot of people are like, no.
Since we're a DIY bakery, we've got some budget equipment, you know, and that means that you got to work with your equipment.
Yeah.
So to get just a better bake,
100%.
I rotate and switch racks.
Yep.
I'm just constantly trying to balance things out.
Because you guys, of course, as a home baker, I like to bake things one sheet at a time for the most even baking, but you can't do that in a bakery.
No.
You say don't overbake because I think one of the big complaints about concha is that they're dry.
Yeah, and I think that just honestly, that has a lot to do with the realities of running a food business, okay? It is hard. Bakeries have the worst margins of any food business. I think bakers are the toughest, most resilient, cool people out there. We're doing a lot with not a lot of resources. So I think just really typically people were just having to buy kind of some cheaper flour, and it didn't hold up. It just doesn't hold up as well, you know? But that's okay, because if you get a fresh one, whatever, it's going to be beautiful.
They don't need to be eaten hot, which is nice. That was a Claire question. You guys talked about that.
I don't understand that. People wanting to eat really warm pastries. I guess it's just a preference.
Yeah, you just want it
just
to be.
Preference.
Yeah, the texture.
I like for the butter to really set.
Yeah.
I like for things to set.
Yeah. How about chocolate chip cookies, though?
I like it to set. I actually really love eating a chocolate croissant cold. I'll stick it in the freezer.
Honey.
I know.
What?
I'm a freak. I don't know. because, I mean, so much butter, right? So the butter and the flour set, it does dull the flavor a little bit. And then the chocolate gets, so it's like that bite. Yeah,
oh
I don't know.
God,
I know.
I love that. Takes about 20 minutes to cool, and then you enjoy them. And then one thing I did want to mention that you and I had talked about, offline, is like this trendiness of concha. Tell us about that and your feelings about that.
Conchas have been around for so long, so long. They are always going to be a part of Mexican culture. And like many foods that, belong to a certain culture, like some people are going to find them and love them, right? And I think we just have to remember that like all conchas are beautiful. They are a part of a people that have a close connection to them. We should just respect them, love all of them because they're all beautiful. It's so cool to see all of these bakers. I've been doing this for a while. I'm about to be 38. I've been doing this for a while, and I love to see this new wave of bakers just doing things differently. You know what I mean? I think it's beautiful. It's wonderful to see the conchas before me. It's wonderful to see the conchas after me. They're just all beautiful, and all good in different ways. They'll always be there. They're not a trend.
And also, I think you had said to me, people, sometimes food media, I guess, can make it seem like, oh my God, there's a hot new trend. It's called a concha.
Yeah.
And you're just like, no, that's not a hot new trend.
They were the first thing that I developed for my menu. They're the best seller. They've been there.
Yeah.
And I'm glad people are enjoying them. I'm glad people are respecting them and craving them and going out there and eating them in other places, yes, we want more.
Thank you so much for chatting with me today, Mariela. And I just want to say that you are my cherry pie.
Oh, thanks, Jessie. Thank you.
That's it for today's show. Don't forget to follow She's My Cherry Pie on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. And tell your pals about us. She's My Cherry Pie is a production of the Cherry Bombe Podcast Network. Our producers are Carrie Diamond, Catherine Baker, and Jenna Sadu. Thank you so much for listening to She's My Cherry Pie. And happy baking!